Hi, I'm Hank Tucker alongside Ben Feeder. We're here for the Chronicle's pregame show for Duke football versus Virginia Tech. That will be tomorrow afternoon at 3:30. Virginia Tech's number 23 in the nation. Duke's 3-5 now, really running out of time to get those 2 or 3 more wins to get eligible for a bowl game, their 5th straight bowl appearance. Ben, you were there when Duke lost to Georgia Tech last weekend, 38-35 in Atlanta. The defense kind of really struggled a lot with big plays. What does it need to do better to improve this time around?
Well, I think that if you break down Georgia Tech's explosive offense in that game, they had 13 plays that went for 15 or more yards. And the issue in the first half, at least, was communication. There were a bunch of breakdowns in the secondary, missed assignments, a couple of wide open receivers, and Justin Thomas basically just ran right through defense. But in the second half, it was a little bit different just because Duke forced a couple more turnovers. But again, it's the same thing. It's the same storyline throughout the season. It's a lot of very good stops followed by 20, 30-yard gains.
And it won't be easy this week, obviously, but Virginia Tech has a very high-powered offense. They're first in the AC Coastal Division now. They've got a few really good receivers in Isaiah Ford, who was an All-ACC selection last year. They also have Bucky Hodges, who's a 6'7" tight end that caught 3 touchdown passes in last season that Duke actually won 45-43 in quadruple overtime, which was one of the high points of the season for the Blue Devils. And then also in the running game, Trayvon McMillan has a lot of talent. He's been inconsistent, but just talk about how Duke can go about containing all those weapons the Hokies have.
Well, I think the issue that Duke really needs to solve, especially against the Hokies, is figuring out what happened to their pass defense from earlier in the season. Although they struggled against Notre Dame a lot, Breon Borders his impact was very tangible, and you can see it just from the stands in that game or on TV. But he seemed to really lose his confidence recently. He got burned early against Georgia Tech, then started to give a bunch of cushions. Same thing kind of across the board for all of their guys in the secondary. And it's going to be tough against Hodges, especially because Duke doesn't really have a guy of the size or the speed or combination kind of to guard him.
Yeah, and Virginia Tech's had a breakout season from their quarterback this year as well. Gerard Evans has been able to get the ball to those guys and put up a lot of points. And then on the defensive end, the Hokies have also been solid. They're top 40 in both rush and pass defense, 23rd in the nation in scoring defense, one of the best marks in the ACC. And then Duke has to deal with the loss of its starting running back from last week, Jalay Duncan, suffered a career-ending torn Achilles. So Sean Wilson is a junior running back that's going to have to step into a starting role. Had probably his best game of the year last week against Georgia Tech. So how can he build on that tomorrow and try to get past the Virginia Tech's defense and try to control the clock and keep Virginia Tech's offense off the field?
Well, I think the issue for Sean Wilson before this game was really getting outside the tackles. I think that he had a lot of success against Georgia Tech, especially on his touchdown run right after a turnover that went outside the tackles, because once he gets on the edges, he's one of the fastest players on Duke's roster, and whenever he steps on the field, he's going to be one of the fastest, if not the fastest or most explosive player on the field at that time. So if he can get out to the edges like he did last time, if Duke gets some good blocks from their guards and tackles, he could be pushed for another big game.
Yeah, and Duke had a few other newcomers kind of get involved in the offense last week that were having quiet seasons up to that point. The tight ends, really, Daniel Helm, Eric Schneider, Davis Copenhaver, all combined for to be some of Daniel Jones's favorite targets last week. And also Chris Taylor, as well as a receiver, had 5 receptions for 67 yards, really breaking through after Anthony Nash was lost a couple weeks ago, the redshirt senior receiver, against Louisville due to a broken clavicle. So, how do these weapons need to come together, and do you think they can give Duke a chance to stay in the game on offense like they did last weekend with 4 straight touchdown drives in the second half?
Well, if they can produce like they did, especially on third down, I think that's really where you need to look at, because if you look at the stats, Virginia Tech has a very, very good run defense. So realistically, you're looking at 2nd and 7, 3rd and 5s, passing situations on third down, and that's when these tight ends and Chris Taylor really need to step up in Anthony Nash's absence, because Nash was Jones's third down target, but Helm really seemed to step into that role, and same thing with Taylor last week. And if they can, it seems like Jones seems very, very comfortable on third down slants, and if he can find find a way to put the ball in tight spaces to Helm, Koppenhaver, Schneider, and Taylor, even some of the other smaller guys like Rauming and Lloyd. If Duke can move the ball there, that keeps Virginia Tech's offense off the field, which could spell upset.
Yeah, so we'll be covering the game tomorrow at Wallace White Stadium. That about wraps it up for the pregame show. But again, I'm Hank Tucker with Ben Feeder. Follow us on Twitter at Chronicle Sports for analysis during the game tomorrow, and read all our coverage, pregame and postgame, at DukeChronicle.com. Thanks for watching.